So now we welcome Charlie with gratitude.
This is the day which the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. The theme for July is how we keep cool during the hot month of July and how that can be a metaphor for our spiritual life. Years ago, saying something was cool was very much in fashion. It's not used as much today. Most people will say something is awesome rather than cool. But today I'm going to mention the word cool a lot and talk about how cool it is when we learn to make our dreams come true. That's because as a hypnotherapist, many people come to me to help them achieve their goals. And so one of my favorite topics is goal achievement. One could say that goal achievement is a hot topic because it's always high on most people's lists, but there's also nothing cooler than making a dream come true. And today we're going to talk about making your dream come true. My sermon title, Assume and Persist, comes from the great mystic Neville whose favorite instruction was to tell us to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and then to persist in this exercise because this was the key to the successful manifestation of anything. This idea of getting the feeling of your goal already being true is found throughout the metaphysical literature. Here are some wonderful quotes from Neville, and by the way, all the quotes from Neville are on the handout that you got when you came in the room. We are all inclined to forget that we are the makers of all that is happening. If you look into the mirror of your mind and seeing what you desire to see, continue thinking from that state, you will see it reflect itself in your world. You can play any part, be it a rich man or a poor man, a beggar or a thief. Once you know there are only parts, only states of consciousness. But if you don't know this and are not willing to give up your present state, you will remain there looking at your desire and not from it. And what is this distinction Neville is making when he says looking at your desire instead of looking out from your desire? Well, it's the difference between watching other people on the roller coaster versus being on the roller coaster yourself. In the one case, when you're looking at the roller coaster, there's no feeling there. In the other case, when you're looking out at life from the roller coaster, there is intense feeling there. And it is the intense feeling from the state of the wish fulfilled which causes the manifestation. And experiencing that intense feeling of being in the state of the wish fulfilled, that state which causes the manifestation to manifest in the physical world, is the coolest feeling on the planet. Last night, Sandy and I watched a movie of a great metaphysician, and his name was Gru. And this was the first Minions movie. The new Minions movie is coming out this weekend, so of course one of the cable channels had to play the old one. And he didn't realize he was a great metaphysician. He thought he was the greatest criminal mind. And of course, if you've seen the movie, he was very inept at being a criminal. But there's this thing called race consciousness, which is around all the time and everywhere. And when we get caught in it, we think we're a great criminal mind and that things are bad and that we have to go out and do bad things to make our goals be achieved. And there's a lot of people caught in that unpleasant place. And so the good news is that it's just a dream. It's just an old bit of hypnotic trance floating around the planet. It's called the trance of scarcity. And the trance of scarcity is that we're not enough and that I'm not enough and you're not enough and therefore we have to go take it from somebody else and we have to be in a bad mood while we're doing it. On the other hand, in metaphysics, we know that we can do this thing called making our demonstration. And making your demonstration simply means that what you wanted to have happen did happen and you got to relax and enjoy the ride. And if you remember that movie, Gru, he fell in love with three little girls, and they were the cutest things. And they melted his heart, and he forgot that he was a great criminal mind and remembered that he just wanted to take care of these three little girls, and in the end of it, it all came out okay, because he fell in love with life. Metaphysical literature is full of stories of people who made their demonstration, and Neville's books and lectures are no exception. In one talk, he tells the story of a woman when the airline lost her luggage. She realized that being upset about it wouldn't solve anything, as that would be persisting in the feeling that something is wrong. However, she had some gifts and irreplaceable heirlooms in her luggage, so it was hard not to feel upset. So it took some discipline of herself to do enough meditation that instead of being angry or fearful, she saw her luggage in her house, even though it wasn't there. And this is called looking past appearances. And many times in the metaphysical life, we're called upon to look past appearances, even if it's someone who's sick and sickness doesn't feel right, or someone who's out of harmony and the disharmony doesn't feel right, someone whose relationship is out of balance. Anything that's going on that doesn't feel right, that's the appearance, and we have to look past the appearance. We have to see what's really there. We have to judge righteous judgment. And so this woman did that. She, instead of being angry or fearful, which is how most people would react, she saw her luggage in her house, even though it wasn't there. After persisting in this for some days with no evidence whatsoever of it ever coming true, out of the blue, she got a call from the airline saying, if you don't pick up your luggage, we will have to charge you a storage fee. And she picked it up, and everything was there. And all is well. There was another story that Neville told, and this was someone who was a friend of his, who was a very good classical piano player. And he had shipped his piano to the manufacturer to get a tune-up, to get parts replaced, to get the whole thing refurbished. And on the way from the manufacturer back to his house, the truck driver decided to steal the truck and sell the contents on the black market. And so this person called up Neville and said, oh my God, my piano's gone, what am I going to do? And so Neville said, picture yourself playing the piano. Feel yourself playing the piano. Hear yourself playing the piano. And then Neville, who was a great fan of classical music, hung up the phone and in his own mind heard his friend playing his piano. And pretty soon thereafter, his friend got a call. The police had found the truck and the driver, and his piano was returned to him, and all was well. And it's important to know that because many times we get upset about something when things seem to go wrong. And if we stay in that upset frame of mind, things will not go well. Because when your energy goes out into the universe, it takes whatever energy you're broadcasting and thinks you want more of that. So if your energy is something is wrong and I'm angry and I want to pound somebody into the earth, or I'm fearful that something bad is going to happen, the universe says, okay, now I know what you want, and gives you more of that. So in the spiritual life, what we have to do is to say, wait a minute, that's just the appearance. I'm going to go into meditation. And as soon as you go into meditation, the appearance disappears and you move into another state of consciousness, which is called solution consciousness. And in fact, I'm teaching an 8-week mindfulness class up in the Reading area to people who are learning how to be practitioners. And the exercise that we did last week was I had them think of something in their life where it seemed like something was wrong. And then I had the person who was working with them, because we were pairing up to work with each other. The person who was working with them simply guided them into a state of meditation. That's all that they did. And even though they already knew how to do some therapy skills and practitioner skills, I said, in this particular exercise, we're not going to do any of that. All we're going to do is guide them into a state of meditation, because I want you to notice the difference that being in a state of meditation makes. And every single person reported that by the time they were in a state of meditation, either the entire problem had disappeared or the sense of it being a problem had disappeared. And one person got a brilliant idea on how to solve it, and other people just simply knew that all was going to go well, all was going to be well. But in every case, the sense of problem was gone just by moving in to that state of meditation. And so when you add to that the things that we know when we do practitioner work, and what we know is we know the glorious, wonderful philosophical truth, then the universe says, okay, I know what you want, and gives you more of that. And so I simply have to say that this very cool thing happened to this woman, and it wouldn't have happened if she hadn't assumed and persisted. An Olympic athlete becomes an Olympic athlete because one day they decide they can do that. They have to say, you know what, I could do that. I could stand on that platform. Then they have to get the feeling of standing on the platform with that gold medal in their hand. And it's a long, hard road to that podium. And there's a lot of other people who also want to be there. So it's not only necessary to get the feeling of the wish come true, it's necessary to persist in it over and over, thousands of times, over a period of several years, because that's the feeling that gets you up in the morning at 5 o'clock to go do your running and your exercise and then practicing your sport. And in that same way, it's necessary for us to persist in any dream that we have if we want it to come true. This is especially true if it's a big dream, because there is that race mind out there, and it says, we talk about mental equivalence in science of mind. A mental equivalent is the thought form of that thing that you want. And there's the mental equivalent of what you want, and there's also the mental equivalent of what you don't want. And if you get caught in the mental equivalent of what you don't want, you'll go all the places where it isn't, and then you'll see that it isn't there, and you'll get discouraged, and you'll give up. You'll talk yourself out of your dream. Or you might even find somebody who's a wet blanket, and they can talk you out of your dream in about 5 minutes. But you will attract an event in the physical world which will make sure that your dream doesn't happen, because what you're really praying for is your dream not happening. I have so many people who come to me and they say, I want this thing, but it's not happening. I want this thing, but it's not happening. And I said, that's right. You're affirming, I want this thing, but it's not happening. That's your prayer. So the universe says, okay, I know what you want. You want something, but it's not happening. I know how to do that. So the universe always makes your dreams come true. All of your prayers are always answered, but sometimes we have bad dreams, and we don't realize that we're praying when we have a bad dream. We're saying that's what we want, and the universe says, okay, I know how to do that. So that race mind comes with discouragement, fear, doubt, and insecurity, and when it comes into your mind, it makes perfect sense. It seems absolutely true, and you know in that moment with every fiber of your being that your dream is never going to happen. So the discipline comes in coming back to your dream over and over and over again. You ever practiced breath meditation, like we were doing this morning during Candace meditation, like you learn about in spiritual practices and in many other places? If you ever did that kind of meditation, you learn that your mind will wander, and you have to bring your mind back to the breath again and again and again. When you're first learning to meditate, you may find your mind seems to do more wandering than it does meditating. And you may wonder if you'll ever get the hang of it. I spent 2 years in an ashram, and I spent the first year wondering if I was ever going to get the hang of it, because I was very much of an intellectual. I lived totally in my head. I had no idea what the spiritual life is like, and I moved to the ashram because it made me feel good to be there. And they told me that everything was God. I had no idea what they were talking about. And they said, okay, now you have to find God every day, and I knew I couldn't do that. So for a while it didn't happen because I knew I couldn't do that, and that was my prayer. But after a while I began to have moments when I was feeling good during my day, and they told me that was it happening, because that's what happens. So the cool thing is, after a while you remember more easily, and you remember more quickly, and after a while longer it starts to become a habit. You learn these spiritual practices, you start living in this spiritual way, and then something happens, you get upset, and it's 3 hours before you remember to meditate, or maybe it's 3 days, who knows, if you're really upset. But then you say, duh, I knew that, why did I forget? Well, we know in the therapy world that this is an old part of your personality that split off at age 5 or whenever, and is coping with life in the old way, being upset, getting your button pushed, and that part of you is age 5, and that age 5 doesn't know anything about spiritual mind treatment, doesn't know about meditation, doesn't know about remembering the breath. That's why you didn't think of it, because you were off in this older state of consciousness. So we're really cutting a new path, we're making a new groove. When the habit of doing things the new way becomes more established, than doing things the old way, you begin to feel different. You begin to feel better. I remember years ago, the old Ministry of Prayer, they had this affirmation card that they sent out all the time, and it said, things are different, things are better. And that's what happens when you put your mind on a new path. Something good is happening. You made it happen. And that's a very cool thing when you see that pattern developing in your life. Here's a quote from Neville. Feeling is the subject of successful prayer. Feel yourself into the situation of your answered prayer by living and acting upon your conviction. In other words, get the feeling of your goal coming true, and you can't do that if you're upset, because when you're upset, all you're getting is the feeling of something is wrong, of your goal not coming true. So you have to get unupset before you can dream your dream into reality, and the way to get unupset is through meditation. In other words, meditation is a cool way of making your dream come true. I worked with someone recently who was trying to get a job, and they came to me all discouraged, and they said, every time I sit in that interview, I know they're not going to hire me. And I said, that's right. And they didn't appreciate that. I had to explain to them why I said that, but I said, what you're affirming is, I'm not going to get hired in this interview, and the universe always makes your wish come true. And they said, oh. And then they got it. I said, the people who get jobs are the people who know they're going to get a job, and they sit in the interview and they feel positive. And oh, by the way, they attracted themselves to people who wanted to hire them, not people who didn't want to hire them, because their energy was different. And so this is all about raising your vibration so that you'll be in the vicinity of the thing that you want to attract. I'm a big fan of the Abraham Hicks material, and one thing they've been talking a lot about recently is it's all about spiritual rendezvous, being in the right place at the right time, what we call synchronicity. And they said you'll get to the intersection and you'll turn left instead of right. And because you turn left, something will happen that will take you to your goal. Another quote, if you know who you are and how imagination operates, you will learn to control your imaginal activities. In other words, a lot of us, our imaginal activities are just kind of out of control. They're just kind of happening. Our thoughts just kind of bounce off the walls and we don't do anything about it. And then your life is like a ping pong ball because your consciousness is everywhere. So how do you use meditation to control your imaginal activities? Well, first of all, use meditation to quiet your mind. Do this by focusing on something quiet. What a concept. You can focus on your breath as in traditional breath meditation, or you can focus on anything else that is quieting to you. It can be a sensory experience, like feeling the cool air from an air conditioner blowing towards you. It can be the feeling of your clothes against your skin. It can be a wonderful idea, such as a contemplative meditation. The Christian mystics were well known for contemplative meditation, where they would contemplate an idea, a wonderful idea, and it would transport them. It would put them in a wonderful frame of mind. It can be an inner visual image. It can be an outer visual focal point, such as a candle flame, a campfire. It can be the sound of gentle, relaxing music, or a trickling stream. It can be the sound and sight of children playing. It can be anything that feels good. Again, Neville says, anytime you exercise your imagination lovingly on behalf of another, you have done the right thing. So like Ernest Holmes, he says you can not only pray for yourself, you can pray for another. And we'll say more about that. One of the best ways to make your dream come true is to start appreciating your life just the way that it is. That's because gratitude and appreciation get the energy moving in the right direction, as it reminds you of how much you already have and how good that which you already have is. And because law of attraction brings you more of what you focus on, when you focus on how much you have and how good it is, then life brings you more of that. It's very cool when that happens. Neville said you can think about something forever and never see it in your world, but once you feel its reality, you are bound to encounter it. In fact, one of the books he wrote is called Feeling is the Secret, because he saw many people who had affirmations, but there wasn't any feeling there, and all the feeling was in the bad stuff. And that helped the universe know what to bring them, which was more of the bad stuff. The great motivators, like Napoleon Hill, tell us that a burning desire is of the right intensity to move things along in our favor. But when you are in conflict, fear, doubt, or discouragement, then the only thing that is burning inside you is the feeling that things in your life are very much not the way that you want, and the fear that you will never have what you want. So focus on gratitude and appreciation, which together help you broadcast the vibration that life is already bringing what you want, and you then begin to fulfill Jesus' saying, believe that you have it, and you shall have it. And meditation paves the way for the peace of that feeling that you already have the thing you want. But how can we get this peaceful feeling if we don't have what we want yet? A great New Thought minister, Jack Insinating, published a book called Your Miracle Book. In this book, which is for the purpose of having your dreams come true, there is nothing but blank pages. You fill in the book. You write the book by writing down your goals and dreams. So, as you might expect, he has you list what you want, and he has you review that list every day. But far more important than that, he has you list what you have. Because this is what puts you in that place of consciousness where good things can come to you, as the state of feeling grateful is the place in consciousness of good things coming to you. So as Neville said in that book, feeling is the secret. That feeling of good things happening already is the key to the manifestation of more good things happening. And what is cooler than the manifestation of more good things happening? He said, we are happy because we are well, not realizing that the process also works in the reverse direction. We are well because we are happy. And in fact, any healing is always preceded by a change in consciousness into a feeling of greater wellness. And if we can't do it ourselves and we work with a practitioner, then the practitioner who knows that all is always well helps to lift us into that feeling, that understanding, that knowing that all is well right now. And then when we know that, then the body reflects that, because the body always reflects our consciousness. How many times have you heard metaphysical teachers teach us that you have to get the feeling first? Isn't it annoying when you feel lousy and discouraged and someone tells you you have to feel good before good things can happen? Well, there's a way to do that. There's many ways to do that. But one very reliable way is to do meditation until you are in contact with the pure goodness of life, and then pray for another. Here's a Neville quote about that. To be joyful for another is to bless ourselves as well as him. Set yourself a daily exercise of controlling and disciplining your imagination. What finer beginning than to imagine better than the best you know for a friend? Represent your friend to yourself as already expressing his desires. How can you do this? By focusing your attention on your friend. Mentally call his name just as you would were you to see him on the street. Imagine he has answered you. Then mentally hear his voice telling you of his good fortune. Then tell him of your joy. After mentally hearing what you wanted to hear and feeling the thrill of the good news, go about your daily tasks. Your imagined conversation will awaken what it affirmed, as your acceptance of the end wills the means. This means something good will happen in the life of your friend and also in your life, and you made it happen. And there is nothing cooler than to help another have a better life and to know that spirit within you did that. He tells the story of living in New York and seeing someone homeless and someone who we would look at and might think of as a bum, and he saw that person employed. And the next week, that man came up to him in a business suit and said, "Sir, when you looked at me last week, I just knew I had to do something better with myself, and I have a job. Thank you." The Apostle Paul said this in Philippians 4, verse 8, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things." Neville echoes this in his admonition, knowing the power of imagination. Become disciplined and transform your world by imagining and feeling only what is lovely and of good report. The beautiful ideas you awaken within yourself will not fail to arouse their affinity in others. We are far more powerful than we realize. This also means that we should not indulge in upset, worry, resentment, fear, or negative emotions, as the ugly ideas you awaken within yourself will also not fail to arouse their affinity in others. Neville said the great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention, firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. In other words, assume the feeling of what you want and persist until it manifests, no matter how long this takes. Wallace Wattles, in The Science of Getting Rich, says, live in your new house until it takes form and shape around you. Meaning, of course, that your new house must be an idea in divine mind long enough and clearly enough that the universe realizes that this is what you want and can bring it into fruition. Can you imagine living in the house of your dreams until they take form and shape around you? And the last thing is to know that you have to speed your goal up to the divine frequency, where you hear the voice of God within telling you what you need to do, and at the same time you feel yourself slowing down, so it is no longer the sense of separate ego, but instead the sense of being one with God that moves you forward in inspired action, and then it comes together perfectly. When the goal is perfectly speeded up, so it is perfect right thinking, and you have perfectly slowed down so that you have reached that state of consciousness, where the Spirit of God moves in, through, and as you have reached a state of perfect harmony, where you become the hands and feet of God, and where you can say, like Jesus did, I can of my own self do nothing, and it is not I, but the Father within. He doeth the work. To give you a taste of that, I'm now going to do a short closing meditation that will review the idea of assuming and persisting and guide you into that place of perfect happiness, which sets your goal in motion inside you. So if we could now have the meditation music. Now, the name is Nolde. The name is Nolde. The name of the track is Nolde. Nolde. Thank you. Turn it down some more. Keep going. That's good. All right. That's what's called a hot track, because I wanted to be able to work on any kind of equipment, even if it's equipment that has a weak signal. So, allowing your eyes to close and your body to begin to relax, letting go of anything that was on your mind, anything keeping you from being the person you wanted to be, doing the things you wanted to do, having the things you wanted to have, letting go of anything that was keeping you in bondage. And over the next few minutes, as you listen to the sound of my voice, allowing yourself to relax so deep that you can make the change you came here to make. And the change you came here to make is to achieve your goal, to achieve your dreams, to become the person you wanted to be. And also that you get to relax and enjoy the ride. So just come with me on the magic carpet of your thought. Allow yourself to slide into that state of consciousness where all is well. Allow yourself to feel the peace that passeth understanding. Allow yourself to move upwards in vibration into a place where you begin to feel a sense of the divine presence. For there is no place where God is not. And that means that God is right here, right now, and that God is inside you right now. That still small voice is always present, ready to tell us what to do at every moment of time and point of space. And the voice of God always speaks in peace, speaks in joy, and it speaks in love. The voice of God teaches us how to be in love with life. For when we relax, and it only takes a moment of relaxation to go in to spiritual consciousness. When we relax and listen to the voice of God, we know what to do at every moment of time and point of space. We are elevated in consciousness. We meet the right people at the right time. And we get to relax and enjoy the ride. Wouldn't you like to relax and enjoy the ride? Just allow yourself to relax and know that all is well, that there is never any moment in your life when all is not well. Yes, it is possible to forget, but as soon as you remember to meditate, as soon as you quiet your mind, you will go back into that place of knowing that all is well. And in that place of knowing that all is well, everything in your life immediately adjusts, instantaneously and perfectly, into a place where you go straight to your goal by the quickest path possible, the path of least resistance, the path of the greatest fun and the deepest love. And so just feeling for a moment that sense of the divine presence, knowing this is who you are, and this is your pure self, and everything else is just noise. Letting go of the noise, and knowing that you are the purity of spirit in form, and that everything you create in your life is spirit moving into form, and that you are a creator with a capital C. Every thought that you have moves into form. And so just allow this consciousness to rest in you, to anchor itself in you, to become attached to you, so that at some point in the future, when you have something that you want to move into form, you can remember this consciousness and move back into it. You can remember that you are spirit moving into form, and so is your dream. And you can relax, and you can know that all is well. And so it is.
That was good. Let's give that one more. That was really, really good. I needed that.